so I'm pretty happy. All right, so my name is Josh Tao. I'm a solutions architect with AWS. And I'm going to talk about how to easily and securely prepare, share, and query your data. Now, you might already see right there in the title a little bit of tension, a little bit of friction. On the one hand, we want to make sure that data is as easy as possible to use, to consume, to share, to get into the hands of the people that need it. And on the other hand, you know, we know, you must keep that data secure and well-governed. And at times, those two ideas, simplified data access on one hand, and data governance, operational efficiency, security and compliance in the other, can feel like they're working against each other. Can feel like compliance is setting up roadblocks, right, and preventing you from really using or sharing your data. So let's explore that idea a little bit. And we're going to talk through firstly how to break down data silos. Then I'm going to show you a little bit of how we can marry those two ideas together with Amazon Data Zone. I'll give you a fairly short demo of how to prepare and share and query your data. So we're going to take you through each of those steps. I've really simplified that demo so we really focus on those steps in isolation. Then we'll talk about some zero-ETL data sharing patterns. Okay? Let's do it. All right. Breaking down data silos. Now, I can kind of hear you thinking, yeah, Josh, we've heard this all before, right? We know our data is in data silos, and you know this, you're right. Data gets locked up in data silos. It gets locked up for good reasons and for bad reasons. I know you want to be spending your time using your data, not worrying about, you know, the governance, the bureaucracy, the effort of managing and maintaining that data. You want data to be the hero. You want your organization to be making decisions based on insights. And you want to make it as easy as possible for them to do that. But you'll also know the opportunity is big. There's a big opportunity if we can use our data, if we get data to the right people with the right quality at the right time, and those people can understand that data and trust that data, then the opportunity is massive. And research backs that up. You can see companies that are able to be insight-driven, that is, they're able to use their data to make good decisions and understand their business, are 8.5 times more likely to see 20% growth. So there's a huge opportunity. And that opportunity is across many different industries. Particularly something like financial services. Very customer-focused. The more you know about your customer, the better decisions you can make, right? If you know your customer's activity, their customer profile, you're better able to, say, understand the reasons they might be leaving, or predict when they might be leaving. You're able to identify fraud, or recommend next best action or product. So there's a lot of opportunity if we can do that. For myself, I've been working in the energy industry for the last couple of years with customers, particularly for electricity. The industry at the moment, as you'll know, is going through a bit of a transition. As more rooftop solar comes on board, we get more charging stations, electric vehicles, you know, electric batteries. There's a transition. How do we bring on all of those great technologies, help us do better with our sustainability, help us operate more efficiently? But how do we protect our security of supply? How do we use that? Now, this is concept of a virtual power plant. And for that to work, for us to be able to use that and be more efficient, we need to be sharing data between lots of companies, from your electricity generators, distributors on the poles and wires, the smart meter, the retailers, even the devices behind your meter, such as your pool pump, your air conditioning, your hot water heater, your electric vehicles, and your batteries. And so success of this will absolutely rely on these companies being able to share data effectively and efficiently between multiple companies. So the opportunities are there, whether that's within your company or between your company and trusted partners. Now, it may or may not come as a surprise to you that 26% of businesses are actually successful in using their data and treating it as a strategic asset, treating your data as data products and enabling it to be shared and used securely and in a compliant way. So let's take a look at how Amazon Data Zone plays into that whole conversation and supports that. Now, most people don't get super excited about governance, right? When I say governance, I tend to see people start to yawn, lose attention, right? It's not the most exciting topic in the world. And that's not helped by talking about a data governance framework, because it's yet another framework. But I want to challenge you a little bit to rethink how you think about governance and how you think about a framework like this. So this framework, its key purpose, in fact, if you remember nothing else from my talk today, this is the key point I want to remember. Good data governance should be about proactively removing roadblocks for data sharing, okay? So data governance shouldn't be, as far as possible, about locking you away, preventing you from using or sharing your data. Good data governance should be proactively approaching your business units, your teams, your people, and saying, what is preventing you from sharing that data? Or what is preventing you from being able to use that data to make better decisions? Is it your data quality? Is it because you don't trust that data? Is it because you don't understand that data? Is it because there's valid security and privacy concerns around that data? What is it? And let's find a way to open that data up and share it. So that's the key, one of the key points here is how do you enable people to do that in a proactive way? And Amazon Data Governance is one of the tools that helps with that. It's about connecting people with data and tools, right? Connecting people with each other, connecting people with their own data, and connecting people with data across your organization. If we look at the core components of Amazon Data Zone, it starts with the domain. Domain's a top-level container, right? It contains your data portal. That's where you'll log in to discover and share and prepare your data. Your domain can be anything. It could represent your organization. It could represent a part of your organization. It can be built into, as a central lake. We could build it into a data mesh approach with multiple independent components, but it's your top-level entry point. Within the domain, we connect two things together. On the one hand, it's your AWS account. Your AWS account is where your data resides, okay? So key point with Data Zone is we're not copying or moving data. Data remains in place. We're providing the governance access, the governance control on top of that to enable people to discover that data and share that data. And that's where the business catalog comes from. So the business catalog lets you store the metadata, that is the data about your data, both technical metadata, right? Your table names, your technical column names, but also your business level metadata. Right? And the key point is the catalog helps you and your consumers understand your data and trust your data across your organization. Now, the way we connect those two things together is with a project. So a Data Zone project is just a container, again. It's a container for connecting three things together. Connecting your people with data from across the organization and the tools that they need to be able to interrogate and use that data. So for example, you could have a project that has people, their purpose, they're bringing together to do metadata governance, that is standardization, making sure everybody uses the same terms. If I use the term sale, another person uses transaction, another person uses order across the business. There's often different terminology for the same thing between, say, the customer-facing departments and the operations teams, right? You could have a team that comes together to help you define common terminology. You could also look at a project as a group of people who are data owners. That is, they want to treat that piece of data as a product that they want to offer in their organization's marketplace. And so the role of that project is, how do I get my data in? How do I understand it? How do I apply the business level metadata on it? Who is allowed to access it? How do they discover it? How are they searching for it? So all of the terms around how do I make this data available for use. And the final example is perhaps a team collaboration, particularly cross-functional, right? So if you've got, say, you've noticed that there's an increase in customer churn, and you want to bring people from customer service, from operations, from underwriting, from product development together to say, hey, let's understand this problem, and let's understand what we can do with it. So you can bring a cross-functional team together and say, right, here are the tools that you can use. Go find the data, subscribe to it, bring it together, and collaboratively work on that data together to solve that business challenge. All right, let's see it in action. I'm going to break this demo into 3 parts. Prepare, share, and query your data. In the first part, I'm just going to run some jobs to help us understand the data. Imagine for a minute that I am a data product owner, right? So I have a piece of data, in this case, customers. I have a customer data set that belongs to insurance, let's say. There's my data. It's very technical. That's my glue catalog table. You can sort of understand that, right? There's a little bit there. I know what it is because I'm heavily involved in it. But if you look down the bottom there, you can see some kind of technical field names. They're relatively intuitive, but in this example, but in many other examples, they would be perhaps less intuitive for use. What we want to do with this, right, is we want to understand what this data is, and we want to understand what we need to do with this data to make it available. Okay, so let's take a look. There are the column names. You can see again, you can see a little bit about them, but it's very technical. It's not particularly useful across a wider organization. Let's look at the actual data. Jump into Athena, we'll run a quick query here. Again, here's my data, right? Here's the top 10 rows of it. I can scan through it. It's going to give me some level of information about it. You can kind of pick up there's some data quality issues there. But I wouldn't say I would understand my data just by looking at that. I wouldn't say that my consumers would know what my data is just looking at that. So we're going to jump over to Glue Data Brew. Now, I've chosen Glue Data Brew very purposefully. Glue Data Brew is really good for non-technical users here. So it's really good for people who are maybe a product owner. In my example, I'm a product owner. I just want to understand my data. So let's say I was part of as an architect, I want to ensure people have tools they can use to connect with the data. I'm going to use Glue to do 2 things. I'm going to first profile my data. And here is my data profile. You can see here, now I'm starting to understand my data. I'm starting to understand, it's actually pretty good quality. There's not a lot of missing data. There's a little bit of duplicates in there. Percentage-wise, pretty small. But you can see on the right-hand side there, it's quite a lot of private information in that, right? Which you may or may not have picked up just by running a Athena query. But this is helping me understand my data. We can go down into record row by row and column by column and start to understand the outliers, the maximums, the minimums. This is all really good information for me as a product owner. Particularly if we get to the end, you can see credit card number has some data quality issues in it. So it's a very sensitive information. You can see some information about the age. Now keep an eye on that data. We'll talk about that a little bit later as well. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is just fix my data up a little bit, right? In its current state, I wouldn't want to share that as a data product. There's some data quality issues, and there's very much some data privacy concerns in there. So I want to again ask the question, how can I share this data, even with the credit card number information in it? So first thing I'm going to do is actually just remove the date of birth. There's a column in there for the age. So from a security perspective, I'm happy to say you probably don't need the date of birth at that point, right? So in this example, I'm just going to remove it. You can see credit card number, obviously some data quality issues in there. We will just mask that data for now, okay? So what I'm going to do is quickly just mask the data. I'm going to replace the first, I think, 14 characters. I think it was. with a hash, right? So it's there, people can see the last 2 or 4 digits, if that's useful, but you're not exposing your sensitive credit card information across your organization. There is still some private information in this data set, right? So you're still going to need to make sure you know who's accessing the data and who's using it. Okay. All right, final thing we're doing is removing the duplicates. A little bit behind there. We've just removed the duplicates and we're going to run this job to prepare our new data set that we're ready for sharing. Okay? So, if we run the job, it's going to put it into a new table. You can see there, we're running the job. It's one I sort of prepared earlier, so it's pretty quick. We're outputting it into an insurance customers table. That is the data product that we now want to share with the organization. Okay. If we jump into Athena, again, we can go look at that data. We can go see that it has no date of birth in it now, and we have masked the credit card number, which will come up in a moment. Okay. So now we understand our data. We know a little bit about it as the data product owner. We've masked the data. We've removed everything we need from in there. Let's talk about how we share that data. Okay, so I'm going to log into Data Zone here. I'm going to log in as my data product owner user. I'm using my SSO login in this case. And what I want to do as a data product owner now is annotate my data with business meaningful data. So I want people to know what this data is. When they search for it, I want them to find it. When they find it, I want them to understand it. When they understand, I want them to trust it. Okay? So, let's take a look. I'm in my insurance project. I'm going to ingest my metadata. Now, the ingestion is not bringing data in, only the metadata into the catalog. It'll actually bring it firstly into my inventory. This is my project inventory. It's like a staging place. It's only available to me within my inventory where I can start to add the business metadata. So you can see it there. All right, let's have a look at that data. Right, at the moment, it's just ingested the technical metadata. So what we want to do here is start to add all of that nice business metadata. Now, for the purposes of this demo, because I'm keeping it quick and simple, I'm not going to go ahead and add all the data. We're going to add some. Actually, you'll notice we've automatically translated the technical names into business names. Right? So we've used a machine learning model to interpret the technical meaning of those names and give it a business meaningful name. You can go ahead and overwrite that. You can add all of that wonderful profiling data in here. At the moment, I'm just going to accept that, but it gives you a really good head start on that. You can actually do the description of the data as well. I'm going to paste it in manually here, but you can actually use a machine learning model to generate a description for you that then you can go and add all of that wonderful profiling information that we got. Okay, I'm also going to add some metadata forms. So this is just a standard way to capture additional data, right? There's more data that's not in the technical information that I want to add so that when people search for my data, they know what it is, they know how to trust it, they know where it's from. So we're just annotating our data with additional metadata for our consumers to understand. Okay, there we go. So now, in a very simplistic way, we've added to our technical catalog metadata, we've added some business metadata, and we can continue to add a lot more. We can then publish that. That takes it from our inventory and makes it available across the whole domain for people to discover. Okay. Now, let's very quickly show you how we then would discover and share that information. So again, I'm going to log into my Data Zone portal here. I'm logging in as an analyst. And my role in this case is to understand opportunities for cross-sell. Right? So I want to understand what the customers are. Let's say I'd want to bring in customer data from different product lines within my business. In this case, I'm bringing in insurance customer data. I'd want to bring in customers from other places, join them together, and try to understand how my customers interact with my products. I've searched for my data. We found the customer data. you can see I can now, as a consumer, understand that data. It's not technical. It has some technical. It has the business meaning. I can say, hey, yeah, that's the data I want. Request a subscription. So I can also give a reason why I need that data. So in a moment, we're going to log into back as the product data product owner, and we're going to see that subscription. So the power of this is not only I can see who's accessing my data, I can understand why they're accessing my data, right? So I can say, hey, I know he has a valid use case for that data. Yeah, that makes sense. In the future, in 3 months, in 6 months, I can go, hey, maybe I don't need that access anymore. That project is closed. You simply reject that or remove that subscription, and we'll show you that in a minute. So this is just the approval. But you get the context. So the customer gets, the consumer gets the context. What is this data? Can I trust it? Can I use it? And as data product owner, I get to know who's using it and for what purpose. Okay? So if we look at our subscriptions, we can look at the ones we've previously approved, understand why and who, and if we need to, we can simply revoke that subscription. So again, it's back to this conversation about how do we empower people to share their data. We're making sure we know who's using it and why. We're making sure the data quality is right. We're making sure we understand that data, and we know who's using it. Okay. Jumping back to my consumer, I can now see I've subscribed to that data. It is now adding it to my environment. These are in separate AWS accounts. They're now adding it to my tool, so I can go ahead and use a deep link directly from the console into Amazon Athena, where I can immediately start using my data. Okay? This is a very simple use case, but you could use this now to join that data with your own data sets. You could use this to produce your own aggregation queries and even publish data back. So I could say, hey, this is the reason my customers, or these are the set of customers that I'm interested in, publish it back as a new data product to be searched and consumed within my marketplace. Okay, so you can see the data there. If you're paying attention, you'll see there was no credit card data in there. It was masked, and there was no date of birth. Okay, so that's Amazon Data Zone. Very quickly, that was a pattern where we shared within the organization. There's a couple of patterns. One is, a hub and spoke model. At a certain level of scale, you'll move to a data mesh pattern where individual parts of your business need that level of autonomy. We can start to look at business to business sharing. That's where we talked about between customers. And the really interesting one is your collaboration. Now in this one, again, back to the theme of enabling people to use your data. Using something like AWS Clean Rooms, you're able to share your data and know who's accessing the data, but also you're able to understand or control how they query that data. So you're able to say, with Clean Rooms, you're able to join that data or aggregate that data, but not select individual records. So date of birth is an example. You could say, you're allowed to find all customers above a certain age, but you're not allowed to see the underlying raw data. So it's back to this thing to say, yes, you have some sensitive data. Yes, you've got some good use cases for it. How do we enable you to do that in a compliant and secure way? Now, lake formation is a big part of this whole data sharing conversation. It's got some really good patterns in there around, particularly fine-grained data access controls. So you can say exactly who has access to the data. You can say what rows they have access to and even which columns they have access to, meaning you can get down to cell-level security. You can say exactly which cell of your table they can see. It also allows you to scale it really well using tags. So you can use tag-based access control. So you're not granting individual permissions. You're saying you have access to all unclassified data. That's fine. But you have no access to any sensitive or commercially sensitive data. So that's really powerful. Lake formation also lets you govern Redshift data share. So if you've got your warehouse and you want to share that with other instances within your organization or other organizations or even on the marketplace to monetize your data. So lake formation enables you to govern that data sharing as well. So it's kind of centralizing that governance within one place. Fantastic. Okay, I've got 3.5 minutes left, so let's wrap up. So you will have heard me say over and over, governance is about enabling and empowering people to use data without compromising your security or compliance. I do recommend you check out the governance framework. You can scan that QR code, take you to a page, but go do some research on it, learn more about it. Great place to learn. Get hands-on with Data Zone, give it a try. There's actually a demo in the data activation just right over there, which does data sharing from Redshift, from a SQL database, using Amazon Data Zone, and then does generative BI with Amazon QuickSight. So really interesting demo. Do recommend you check that out. Also, come find me in the expo. I'll be under the operational excellence zone, so you can see that right there in purple. I'll be hanging out there. Come chat to me. Tell me about your data challenges. Tell me about the opportunities you could have if you were able to share your data. Or tell me how you're sharing your data. Bring us some challenges. We'll jump over a whiteboard and see what we can do. Finally, this is an amazing summit, amazing opportunity. It's just a really good opportunity to connect with each other and learn from each other. I've had a ball going through all the sessions out there and discovering the ways that people are using data and using Lego to build cities, understand what's going on. I'm loving pressing buttons and flicking switches, and I'm going to go use some of the generative AI ones out there in a moment. But I'll challenge you to continue the learning after today, right? And Skills Builder is a really great way to do that. Really good place to go, explore at your own pace, a really good place to discover everything that AWS has to offer, so definitely check that out. Finally, let me say thank you. Hopefully you've had some interesting insights into Data Zone, data governance, lake formation. Hit me up on my email, LinkedIn there. And thank you very much. Hope you enjoy the rest of your summit.
Wow, what a session, eh? Thank you so much for that, Josh. I'm sure you all learned something today. Please be sure to rate this session. It's very important for us to get feedback. So please get into the app, rate the session. It's lunchtime, so I won't hold you up. Yeah, see you after lunch. Thank you.